How do you make a movie? I have no idea.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, it's that time of year again. Halloween night is upon us.
Are you here for the party?
A night filled with thrills and chills.
Your card?
So the Jester 2 is out now. It's finally out. A year ago today, we were in the middle of shooting it, and now it has finally been released for everybody to see. My goal with these videos that I want to be putting out is not to tell you how to make a movie, because I'm still learning how to do that. It's not to say definitively that these experiences are unique or are super common, because I only have the context for these two Jester projects that I've made. I had no real frame of reference for when I was offered the chance to do the first Jester feature. I had no idea what lied in between the no-budget shorts that we made on the weekends for $500 a piece and the low-budget features that are released in theaters for $5 million. What exists in the $150,000 range? I had no idea. I want these videos to be the things that I wish I had found when I was starting this project. And maybe, if you're somebody who is either about to start their project or is wondering how to start, maybe this will help you. I don't know. All I can do is describe my experiences, the good and the bad, and maybe it'll give you some reassurance to know you're not alone in your experience. These projects get really hard, and you're gonna be stressed, and there are days where you wake up and you're gonna feel really discouraged. Unless you're a much better person. You're not the only one who's ever felt that in this situation. Whatever the project looks like, too. The way I see it, if you're somebody who's also trying to make your own projects, we're all learning how to do this together. At a time when we're still learning how this new landscape looks. I'm just going to provide my experience. And if it helps you, great! I was able to find one series of videos that actually gave me the most reassurance and information as to what a day on set even looks like, because I'd never been on set before the first Jester feature. This series of videos was by David F. Sandberg about his experience directing, I think it was right after Annabelle Creation came out. David F. Sandberg, if you're not familiar with him, he got his start on YouTube with the Pony Smasher channel. Him and his wife did the Lights Out short that went viral and then led to his first feature being the Lights Out movie, which led to Annabelle Creation, which led to Shazam, and he's done all these great things since. He still revisits his channel from time to time and posts videos that talk about maybe the more under-discussed things in filmmaking, which I really appreciate, and I love every time he's able to pull back the curtain on his own experience in that way. But he did a series of videos about what being a director is like on set, from the perspective of somebody who was still fairly new to the process. If you're somebody who is, like me, always craving information like that, I highly recommend watching his videos. I'll have a link to that specific playlist in the description. By the way, if you haven't seen The Jester 2, it is out now. You can rent it or buy it wherever it is you rent or buy movies from. And I recommend doing that before watching these videos, because I am going to get into a lot of spoilers for The Jester 2. So if it matters to you, please go watch the movie. It would mean a lot to us if you went and watched it. And if you're somebody who really doesn't care about anything, then I guess just keep watching. So, how do you write a feature film? How do you write a feature film when all you've known is writing short films? That was something that we had to learn really, really fast on the first Jester feature. You know, all of our short films existed in this like 10 to maybe 20 minute runtime. And now we were being asked to make something that ended up being 90 minutes, which was really intimidating. How do you keep momentum going for that long? I was worried about pace, I was worried about cohesion. I didn't know how to structure a 90-minute feature film. I want to also mention another really important resource for me on both of these Jester movies have been the Beyond the Screenplay team. They also have a YouTube channel called Lessons from the Screenplay, which I highly, highly recommend. If you're watching this video, you maybe have already seen theirs. I highly recommend listening to it if you just want to consume as much of this educational content as possible. How long does it take to write a feature film script? Well, from an interview I heard with Christopher McQuarrie, he said anywhere from 5 days to forever. Actually, for the first Jester film, that one we were given 4 weeks to write a script. We were given 2 weeks prior to that to come up with an outline, and then 4 weeks to write a script. Having no frame of reference at the time, I'd said, that's plenty of time. After the outline was finished, I remember thinking, well, this is going to be easy. I just have to write this out long form for the script. 4 weeks, I'm not going to need all that time. The first draft of the first Jester feature script was 61 pages. Now, if you're familiar with the 1 page equals roughly 1 minute of screen time formula, that's not a feature film. I don't really know what that is, but it's not good. I didn't realize until I was finished with that first draft that my worst fear was being short and having to elongate something. The first draft, the very first draft for anything Jester 2 related was 150 pages. Completely different problem, but still completely undoable for the situation that we were in. I started coming up with an idea for Jester 2 right after Jester 1 came out, on the off chance that a Jester 2 opportunity popped up, because I wanted to give myself longer than 4 weeks this time. Mike and I started brainstorming ideas, and I thought I didn't want to abandon that first film, so let's try to make a genuine sequel to that first Jester feature using all the same characters and continuing that storyline, and that was the script that was 150 pages. And let me tell you, it was bad. It was not good. Eventually, over the course of a few weeks, I was able to whittle that 150-page script down to a tight 83 pages, and it was really bad. I don't know if you understand how not good the script was. And it's important because I got it out of my system, because I gave myself the time to write something that I wanted to write. I wanted to make a sequel to that first movie, a genuine sequel, and carry those characters and that story over. I did that. I wrote that script and was able to finally, once that script was finished, I was able to step back from it and look at it, now seeing the big picture and saying, you know what? This inherits all the same problems as the first one, and it's not any better. It just feels like more of the same, but worse. So I was able to say, that's that. I tried it, and it didn't work. The important thing was I had the time to do that. I had the time to puke up this idea and look at it and go, that looks like puke. Out of frustration, we're trying to figure out, what does this even look like? It was Mike's suggestion. He said it as a joke, which are always where my favorite ideas come from. But he said it as a joke, like, yeah, I don't know, maybe people just want the Jester to like unzip a guy's coat and his guts come spilling out. And I was like, yeah, that actually sounds really cool. I imagine the Jester doing it because he's in a rush. It's like such an unceremonious thing. And I think it'd be funnier if he unzipped a guy's coat because he was hurrying on his way to do something. Now, why would the Jester be in a rush at all? And we built from there. And I've talked about this in other interviews and everything, but I think it's important to continue to highlight these ideas can come from anywhere. And if they feel right, then they feel right. There's always a kernel, it feels like, with these projects, with these short films that we've done, there's always a kernel of what kickstarts or ignites the idea. And it's important to have something like that. For Creep, the kernel was seeing the thing down the hallway with the flashlight. For On My Way, it was the unbroken take and seeing that first jump scare out the window before the main character does. For the Jester, it was actually the last shot. It was the Jester going up to some definitely kids and doing the same trick for them, and there's a different result because of their reaction. Something about these ideas needs to excite you because you're going to be working on it for a long time. And it all starts with that kernel, and you have to build from that. And that's when this script came, the Max script. From the first draft to when we started shooting was about 4 months. And changes kept being made to the script all the way through till the end, really, because you're always thinking about the script, you're always wanting to improve it, minute changes here and there, or changes that you have to make due to logistical limitations. For example, one of the additions to the script that happened pretty late in one of the later drafts was the addition of the DJ Jack character, which is clearly an allusion or homage to the Wolfman Jack, actual radio DJ.
Good evening, ladies and gents. I'm your humble host, DJ Jack, and it seems the Halloween festivities are in full swing all over town.
The reason that DJ Jack was added to the script was because I had sent that current version of the script to a few trusted people whose opinions I really respected, and I wanted their feedback. Some of the feedback I got from the script was what's happening in the larger world outside of the bounds of the movie. How is the small town responding to what the Jester's doing? I realized that was a really important note because I didn't want the same confusion that came with the first movie, where people were unsure of, the Jester's influence on the main characters, and are they the only ones that can see him? How is he affecting the people around him? Because we're so small and low budget, there was no way to show like the larger town in a really meaningful way. So having a radio DJ on Halloween night do voiceover, and then he has this kind of arc where he drops the DJ facade in order to relay really important news information that's happening that night, I thought was an effective way to communicate there is a larger town outside of this, and the town is responding to the events that we're witnessing in the film without us having to break away from our main characters and go see any of that stuff and spend a lot of money and time doing that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is DJ Jack with an important update.
Here's another example of a scene that was constantly in flux, basically right up until we shot, and that is the fire station scene from the movie. That scene, originally in the script, it was a hospital. I wanted this dynamic between the Jester and Max, where the Jester can't have Max die. So I just thought it was interesting. I've never seen a horror movie where the horror villain has to save the protagonist. So, we have an outside threat show up that the Jester has to save Max from, and then Max is now in danger from her own body, having a reaction. And the Jester, while he is magic, is not a doctor, so he has to get her help. I thought that was a really interesting scenario to put them in. So I brought them to the hospital. It was a busy hospital hallway, and the Jester is wheeling Max down in a wheelchair, and I thought that was just a really fun entry point into this scene. And I really loved the scene a lot. It was really intense and really scary. And nobody else did. Nobody else liked the scene. So in the spirit of compromise, I changed the scene to where it was an ambulance on the side of the street. I didn't really like the scene as much, but it was maybe more doable. Turns out it was still not at all doable. So we could not logistically achieve this ambulance scene that was written, and it was very long and it was very complicated. So I had said, whatever location we're able to find, I just want to keep the same idea. If it can be something medically related that the Jester can take her to, because I really want that dynamic. I don't want to change the scene entirely to where Max is just running away from him and he chases after her. I want this scene to be the Jester having to save her in some capacity. We started shooting the movie without really having any idea what that scene was going to be because we didn't have a location. And the shoot day for that scene was pushed to the second to last day of our 14-day shoot. So we were hoping it was going to give us enough time to figure it out. Luckily, the fire station location came together. It came together at the last minute, but it was a more exciting location than any of the previous versions of that idea walking around that location, we were getting inspired by the location itself. There was a fire axe on the side of the truck, and the idea of Max hiding under the trucks. We were going through and just oh, what if we did this and what if we did that, and just felt really organic. I wrote that scene pretty quickly because we were going to shoot it in a few days, and added a new kill, which was not part of our special effects list of kills, which is the axe to the face. I really wanted to bring back the blanket from the shorts, but and also from the first scene in the movie, and see the Jester use his magic blanket kind of as a weapon. How do you use the blanket as a weapon? And one of the things that was always talked about with the original short film was the Jester disappears that character at the end of the film. That's the big magic trick. And everybody always said for years, well, where'd that guy go? What? You can't disappear a guy without bringing him back, so this was kind of the, oh, we'll bring this guy back in the most fun way possible. There is something that I did during the script writing process where I wanted to give some of the ideas in the script as good a chance as possible for the script to be greenlit. I went online and I found somebody who did like concept art and storyboards and things like that. And I sent them some scenes from the script and asked them to do interpretations of them. I wanted this concept art so that I could add them to the script and give the scenes some just visual representation for the people that were going to be approving the script. Some of the art is really, really cool, and I want to showcase it here and also give the name of the person that did the art because I think it's awesome. I have no idea if it helped. I don't know if it mattered at all or if it was appropriate to do, but I tried it. I tried everything this time around that I could to get my ideas across because I approached this movie like it was going to be my last movie. I still don't know if that's true, but it was a chance to make a movie, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything on the table, and I wasn't going to walk away from this with regrets of something, you know, I wish I'd done this or I wish I'd done that. I did it, and I tried it. Whether it worked or not is a different story. One of the things that these movies need are kills. It's a horror movie, it's being marketed as a slasher, so these movies need people to die in them. For me, I never wanted the Jester to become just another slasher. That was never our intention with the short films. I always thought the Jester was just something different. And in the shorts, he never slashes anybody. That's not his goal. That's not what he's interested in. He does more harm to himself than to anybody else, and I think that is just weirder and creepier. And that was always, you know, the Jester was always meant to be weirder. But compromise, people gotta die. So keeping in the spirit of the short films, I wanted the kills to always be related to magic in some way, whether it was through his street magic tricks, or ideally it would be through a traditional magic trick that a lot of the audience would be able to recognize. And that is so hard. It was so difficult to come up with these kills every time. We wanted the kills to be creative. We wanted them to be unexpected and a lot of fun. And if you want something to be good, it's really hard to do. But the supernatural illusion element to it added another wrinkle of complication logistically and budgetarily, because we didn't have a lot of resources to make a lot of these written effects happen. The Jester just can't whack somebody in the head with a blunt object. Like he's got to do some kind of magic trick, but then that means that we also have to pull off some kind of magic trick in some way with no money and no time. So sorry. Some of the effects in this we were able to do a couple of tests beforehand, but for a majority of them we were seeing the tests for the first time while we were setting up to shoot it, which is not not ideal. But even if you can just do the mildest of tests, the simplest, most basic of tests, as a proof of concept, it can go a long way to reassuring yourself and visually being able to communicate this to everybody else on the crew, what you're going for when you do arrive on the day on set. So for example, there's the Looney Tunes moment where the Jester is pulling an endless sleeve of scarves out of this guy's mouth and gets caught on his guts, so he has to put a foot up on the guy's shoulder, and then, because we wanted to go more cartoony with it, put his other foot up on the guy's shoulder and fully extend his body out to where he's horizontal. And this was such a difficult idea to communicate to people. Everybody had their own interpretations of what that meant. Some people were saying, oh, he's standing on the guy's body, he's pulling up while he's standing on his shoulders, and it's like, no. What he's doing is he's laying out flat in midair, pushing up against the guy's body as leverage. And it required us to have to shoot a concept so that everybody was on the same page. So at the warehouse we were basing our production out of, we did shoot a little test with just an Apple box, and we shot a little proof of concept photo. And that went a long way in being able to have the crew and everybody who needed to anticipate what we were about to shoot that day when we said, okay, we're gonna do the gag now. Everybody knows what that means. For most of the other gags in the movie, though, we had no idea what any of it was gonna look like until that moment on set, so a lot of thinking on the fly had to be done. So for this movie, we had about 3 weeks of prep. The first Jester, I think by comparison, we had a little under a week of prep. This one we had 3 weeks, which I thought sounded like a ton of time. And compared to the first one, it was. But we ended up spending most of that time looking for locations. Every day that we would think we secured a location, the next day they would pull out. So every day we always thought we were making progress and then ended up back at square one. So those 3 weeks went by really fast because we kept having to start over, and it's really difficult to get specific with your shot list when your locations are always kind of in flux. The other thing that's difficult that I haven't quite figured out how to navigate at this level is being a director on such a small production that's super low budget, not a lot of time, which I will keep saying. What are the things that I can say no to? So in this situation with the locations, we find a location. And this did happen. We found a location that was absolutely perfect. That location pulls out. We go to a secondary location. It's not as good as the first one, but it'll work. A great second option. They pull out. Now what? The location that is found that we absolutely can use is not ideal. Maybe it's ideal because it's the only one left, but other than that, it completely changes the creative intent of the scene. It changes tonally what we're going for. At that point, can I say no? For the resources that we do have, what we're able to get, we're lucky to have. So that means we're in this position where we don't have any other options a lot of times when we get these locations. You're asked, as a director, well, what do you think? And there were so many times where I didn't know if I could say no. Same with cast, same with crew. Again, I was so lucky to have so many members of the crew be so talented on this production. We were so lucky to have the cast that we did. But if something isn't working, which is going to happen, I can't say I don't like this location because where else are we gonna go? I don't know. I don't have an answer yet. I don't have an answer as to how to navigate those specific situations at this level. What I do know is what got me and got this production through those situations were essential members of this crew. Chelsea Turner, who was the production designer and art director for this, was the first person that we hired on this production. And again, it's like, we get who we can get. We get who will say yes for the amount of money that we have. And sometimes we get really, really lucky. And with Chelsea, we got really, really lucky. She is endlessly creative, super resourceful, and completely overqualified. I've told this story before in the behind-the-scenes documentary that our DP, another very important person that I'm going to talk about, actually cut together, which you can find on the Jester 2 Blu-ray. If you missed it in theaters, you can find it on the Jester 2 Blu-ray that is going to be available November 11th. So if you want to see that documentary, you can pick that Blu-ray up. But I've told this story on there about how in the original version of the script, the Jester had a jack-o'-lantern instead of the candle. And it served the same exact function as the candle does in this story, but I knew going into this production, I liked the iconography of the jack-o'-lantern, but as a timekeeping device, which is what it was meant to be, the audience needs to be able to look at this device and know for certain how much time the Jester has left at any given moment in the story. And with the jack-o'-lantern, we'd always have to cut to an insert, maybe, of the candle getting smaller and smaller, and even then, the reference is really difficult. So during our first conversation, that was kind of my question to Chelsea was, I want to get rid of the jack-o'-lantern. Here's the purpose of the jack-o'-lantern. What else can we do you think? And she came up eventually with this idea of the candle that is in the film. And she was an endless source for those kinds of collaborative moments. And something else that was really important is making sure you as the writer and director understand the intention with your own decisions. It'll make it easier to explain to your various department heads what you're looking for and why, and allow them the freedom to collaborate creatively. As long as they're maintaining that intention, the things around it can change. For example, here are Max's cards from the movie that Chelsea designed. These are custom cards, just like her Jester card deck are custom cards that she designed. The script just describes the Jester's cards as the Jester's cards, that's it. So she had the freedom to come up with these things however she saw fit. We played with a lot of different things. She thought black looked really cool. Something else that she did was, what are the most important cards in the Jester's deck? They are the ace cards. So she took each of the kills in the movie and she referenced them on each of the ace cards, matched them to the kill in the movie. So for example, this is the card that's drawn for the candy lady at the front door, and the Jester kills her using a magic wand. So on the card is a gloved hand holding a magic wand. The ace of clubs that Logan pulls is the card that he pulls right before he's squeezed to death by the Jester's coat. So on the card is a pair of gloved hands tightening a knot. Those are not my ideas. I didn't come up with that. That's all Chelsea. And they're not things that you'll necessarily see in the movie, but if you do, they're there. And it just makes everything so much better. It makes everything so much richer and gives you so much more appreciation for those collaborators. Max's cards were designed to be visually different from hers, and when I explained in the script, it only says that Max has animal-themed cards. Throughout the film, she's struggling with the inability to choose between what to take from her childhood, moving into adulthood, and what to leave behind. Max is at that weird crossroads part of life, that age, where we all struggle to figure out who it is we want to be and who we think we should be. So the animal cards were like just showing that Max is still holding on to some of these childhood, maybe childish things, but the real intention with her having animal cards was that you needed to be able to tell whose cards were whose. You know, just from looking at them, which deck is Max's, the one with the animals, and which deck is the Jester's, the spooky one with the gloves on them. That goes for the front and the back. That was what I explained to Chelsea. The animal cards can be whatever you want them to be. I just need to make sure that those are the ideas that we're communicating. And she came up with this idea of the animals being storybook characters in this kind of art style, like fairy tale characters. But instead of it being humans populating the fairy tale stories, it's these cute little animals. So she took all the animals that were mentioned in the script and just turned each suite of cards into one of these, like this is the Clovers is the hedgehog suite, and the diamonds are the tiger suite, and just made little storybook references with the animals. I love these cards. I'm so glad I get to have a deck, and my only regret is not showcasing them more clearly in the movie. The other thing that she had come up with was, this is just a fun fact that I want to share because I think it's cool and exciting. If you look closely, the decks are a different size. The Jester's deck on the top is a bridge deck of cards, which are smaller and thinner. So when she ordered the decks, she ordered the Jester's deck to be bridge-shaped to show the visual differences, for one, between the two cards, between the two characters, but also it's just another little indicator that the Jester's been around for a while, so his cards just are a different shape. And that's all I have to say about that. These are the kinds of things that you get when you have collaborators, when you have people who are willing to collaborate and willing to work within the means and give you options, and you aren't always going to get those people. The things that she was able to do with the resources that she had are nothing short of incredible. I'm still so impressed. There's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more to get into. We're going to come back to some of this stuff in our next video, which is going to be about production. But if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching me sit here and talk about this movie that you can watch right now, The Jester 2. You can watch it anywhere you get your movies. I have no idea if this information was helpful or is going to be of any use to anybody, but I really appreciate you watching regardless. Remember to check out The Jester 2 if you can or want to. And I'm going to be back with another video unless something terrible happens to me. Bye!